walking home video. The sun's actually almost out, but it probably won't last. It's gonna rain again. So anyway, alright, the life subject. Dario did a video, and that onenall guy who did all the virtual reality videos sort of asked a related question. Just the whole measuring of what's the value of this thing called life. And this, of course, relates to this whole subjective-objective argument that got started because people dared to ask the question. Because there will be people who try to defeat the question because they're doing the rooting for the home team thing. And so they think it's their job to basically throw bottles and maybe even shoot some guns, you know, at the opposing team. Because, you know, they're asking questions that they don't want people asking. You know, Laura Layla even you know, put a little remark in Dario's video, and she said she's going to get beat up for it, and whatever. I mean, yeah, this really is a real subject. You know, your last couple of videos with these nice little crab story and a little story of the whatever, you know, one-legged frog or something. You know, it's a cartoon of life. It's not life. You know, cartoons make it a lot, they make life friendlier, but, sorry, no slime. I got allergies, which I never had before, but whatever, just more of the charm of growing old. So anyway, yeah, but that's not reality. Reality isn't, you know, the happy crab. They don't get to have personalities and go on adventures and do all that crap. No, they just, you know, most of the time they're just grazing. They spend their life grazing. You know, and, you know, measuring the value of this life thing. So getting back to the onenall guy, you know, what's the value of desire? Because it really is hard to, the exchange rate. It's like desire is in euros and pain and suffering is in dollars, and you somehow have to exchange these things and come up with some kind of monetary system. You know, the quantum again, and you know, I've sort of made the argument that what we do know about desire is that it's basically built out of a perception of deprivation, and deprivations that are sometimes can become quite unpleasant, but generally speaking, you know, they are motivating forces. That's what they're intended to do. And both pain and desire, or attraction, or whatever you want to call it, addiction is what I have chosen to call it, because I think that's the most applicable. So, what's the value of this addiction versus the attractive force versus the repulsive force is basically what the equation comes down to. And you can sort of, you know, bend and break. You know, you can't avoid the repulsive force. You can't avoid recognizing its negative value. The problem is the attraction force. The attraction is rather illusionary. We're not attracted for good reason. Just as our pain often isn't for a good reason. I mean, we have pain when most of the time when it will do us absolutely no good. I mean, it's not going to do you any good to suffer during your heart attack. I mean, if you're just going to die anyway, there's nothing you can do about it, you can't stop it, then what the hell good does all that suffering do? None. But that's the quandary we're in. As stated, the system isn't built by Einstein, it's built by dumb fucking forces. So that's why it's a dumb fucking system, with dumb fucking monetary system, and a dumb fucking value system, and it doesn't make any sense. So, you know, look, we all have this thing. Once we're in the game, we're in the game. And it's only, you know, when you get out in the outsides for a while, when you're you know, up in the bleacher seats for a while, you can start detaching and start maybe looking at the game and saying, oh man, that was a stupid game to play. I think other people probably have this experience, but you get over things. You think you want them, and then you figure out, oh, I really don't like that after all. When I start thinking about it, I mean, I certainly had that with sports. I mean, at one time in my life, yeah, I was interested enough to watch and say, ooh, what's that guy going to do today? And it sort of meant something to me. But, you know, now I look at it and I laugh. I mean, it was silly. So all the value of that desire has been eradicated by a new perception, a new context, a new view that makes it obvious that all it was a stupid psychology. It wasn't made of anything. There was no real intrinsic value in what I was valuing. It was just a psychological fart, or whatever you want to call it, and that's it. So that's the quandary we're in, is that both of these values have corruptions, but the bottom line is you can't undo the negatives. The negatives can only be undone by a positive. You have to come up with something to balance that. And most people are just going to run away from this question, and they'll just say, "Oh, it works all out. It's okay. It's all even." You know, that's their bullshit. They just pulled it out of their ass like the Drake equation or some other kind of bullshit, and they just say, "Because I want it to make sense, I will force it to make sense." And it's just so bogus. There's a lot of people out there, Greatex, Nora Layla, Pyro, just, you know, they're just humming the "Don't Worry, Be Happy" song. Yeah, let's just keep playing the game, and somehow the game is just going to magically make sense. It's going to get better somehow. You know, that ain't going to happen. It's just daydreaming. And what the human race needs to do to fix this problem is to take the problem seriously, to actually face it. But that ain't happening. So we'll see. I guess the other component I would add to this is I had a thought. Yeah, so the game is expectations. Or the game is, you know, the subjective part of it is that each one of us has sort of learned how to navigate their life. And some people, we can see it in their personalities. Some people attempt to minimize losses. I would put me in that category. And there's other kinds of people who are trying to maximize the gain. All right, it's you know, they'll go for anything because they just want a better high, a bigger high. You know, they're more driven by attaining some super positive than they are driven to protect against the super negative. And there is an equation here, a balanced one, a rational one, that appreciates the negatives for what they are. All right, stream crossing time. And that's what needs to be sort of argued through, because you know, as much as we want to keep saying this is all subjective, it isn't. It's no more subjective than it would be for us to analyze any other circumstance. If you were responsible for 100 rats in a laboratory who were running a maze and you know, had to endure some sort of risk maneuver, you know, you could make the equation. You could make decisions that would decide the fate of these animals. And but no, it's the human race. You run away because what, God or nature or the God out in the future somewhere, the magical, we'll find him somewhere God is going to deal with these questions. No, none of that's going to happen. We're the only ones who can deal with the questions. We're the only ones that can answer them. And we're not, most people aren't even trying, and it's obvious by their rhetoric. They're using all kinds of word games to evade going anywhere near the subject, because they know they don't have the ammunition to defend what is a fucktarded system, and that scares them. The obvious indication is that our perception of beauty is an illusion. This is carnage all over the place. It is stupid and insipid and nonsense, built on consumption and reproduction, no higher aspiration, no greater ambition. This is a failure, and they don't want that word ever associated with this thing they call life, because the thing they call life they associate most strongly with the thing they call desire, and their addiction is strong, and that's just the game. It's how addicted are you is what it's going to come down to, I suppose. And I would argue that the only people that's going to have any credibility are the people least addicted, the people who have the least amount of corrupting desire, because really, that's the game. Desire is what's corrupting the perception. The pain is just a fact. It's a real consequence and talking. So I'll just stand and talk. And this arm is getting tired. So anyway, yeah, it's probably enough of a video. This is the important question. No bigger question for human beings to face than analyzing the purpose of this thing called existence. And what is quite apparent is there's a lot of people who will resort to some rather cheap rhetoric to avoid having to deal with the facts of our life. The facts don't add up to something they can make that is happy enough for them, and so they are going to break those facts, and that's just that simple. They're going to try to evade them, and a few of us will just have to keep arguing and exposing that for what it is, because that's all it is. They're just cheating, period.